All right, so today on Man Mechanic we are talking about the radiator core support and the battery tray area that we are going to be putting on said Ranchero back behind me. The problem that you have with a lot of this stuff is there are things that are readily available and really cool, and then there's things that are available but not available just by themselves. Anyway, we'll be talking more about that right after the break.
Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Auto Krafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today.
All right, so what I'm going to talk about now is the brand new, well, it's not brand new to me because I just pulled it out of the box. This has been around for a little while. It is the radiator core support for the 64 to 65 Falcon. And this is a really nice piece. I have to say that I am pretty impressed with it. Metal thickness is good. I don't think it's quite as thick as the original panel, but it's still good thickness and it should work out just fine. Overall, I can't find a ton of differences between these two. One thing I will say that is different is that on the original core support, there is a beveled hole right here below the mounting position for the grill. And there isn't a corresponding hole there on this panel. So if you need that hole for whatever reason, you're going to have to add it to the panel. And it's the same on both sides. There's a corresponding hole like that over on the driver's side of the car that's not on the original panel. But overall, I think the piece is very well constructed. Now the stamping lines and everything are really nice and tight. It's got a really good, crisp mark out on it. I mean, everything just looks like it should look. Even going down to the details inside these flutes here, the fluting actually has the detail of it dropping down inside just like the original had on it. And usually on a Falcon, if anything's going to be eaten up, it's going to be these pieces right here, because a lot of times it'll chew all this out with rust from the battery being a problem. If the battery acid got dipped onto these. Now the reason we're replacing this is that this whole radiator core support on this thing is just absolutely trashed. It's trashed to the point if this wasn't available, I would try to find a very good original, cut it out of the car, and put it in. But luckily, it's available. So we're going to go in and use this one. Now I'm going to flip over to the other side and talk about a couple of more things that are a problem. And then we're going to address the battery tray area because that is something that is not available. But I think, according to things I've read so far, there is a solution out there to our problem. All right, so I'm going to go over a couple of things that are different on this panel than they are on the original and why that they are different. There's a little bit of strangeness on this one. For instance, there's a mounting point here for a clip for the wiring harness, and it's there, it's just moved over to here. The other one that's on here that's not on the original panel is this spot right here. I don't know what the difference is, but for some reason this may be a later 65 that they pulled from, or it may be an earlier one that they pulled from. And there's a box here. All of your original stab holes are there for mounting stuff up, and you'll notice that all of them are here as well. This hole right here is actually one that somebody added. They put something else in here and moved it up to this position. A lot of times your stab holes will get eaten out. In other words, people will put bigger and bigger fasteners in there, and so these holes will get just way bored out. You'll notice on the original there's that hole that we talked about before that's not on the panel here, and there's a hole down here on this that's not on the new panel, as well as this hole that's in the original panel that's not on the new one. And you may be wondering, why did they not put those in there? Well, the reason is those are holes for the AC hoses when you have an air-conditioned car. If you had a car that was a factory-done AC system, these holes are usually like this. Nice and round, very well formed, a nice looking hole. If you got aftermarket AC or AC added on by a dealer, a lot of times those holes are pretty ratty looking, and it'll look like somebody did them with a blowtorch, which I hate to say a lot of times they did. And so you'll have nasty looking holes. But this car, because of this and the holes in the firewall, it tells me that this car was probably a factory installed AC. In other words, while it was going down the assembly line, it was ordered with air conditioning. So it's kind of cool that Logan's car has air conditioning, factory style air conditioning on it. The sad part about it have factory style air conditioning on it is that we won't be putting factory AC back in it. So I've got to actually go in and fill those holes up. These holes I will probably put back in, the ones that are on the front of the core support, but the ones on the firewall don't work with the AC system that we're using from Classic Auto Air on this car. So yeah, more plugs to build. All right, now I'm going to talk about the battery tray apron, which is probably the hardest part of this whole situation because it's out there, it's available as a separate piece, but you have to buy the apron kit, which is pretty expensive. But let's talk about that now. All right, now what you're looking at right now is the battery tray area for our 1964 Falcon hardtop. That is what this should look like, and it does not. You can look at it and see that there has been some damage. Oddly enough, most of the push on this panel when it was hit was down low, and it caused all this damage to move up here. This crease right here I don't think is a factory crease. I'm pretty sure this is wrong here. This shouldn't be poking out this way. This area right here should be a nice creased flat line, and it's not. The thing I would do is if this car was going to be one that we were going to be putting into a ton of shows and doing things like that with, I would probably try to go out and find an original car and pull a battery tray area out of it, or just bite the bullet, buy the whole apron assembly that Dynacorn sells and put that in here. But there is a solution to this problem that the guys at Auto Krafters offer, and it's basically using a 1965-66 Mustang battery tray apron. This is not, in my opinion, a preferred solution. If I could do this any other way, I would, but what I'm going to have to do is to use this one and cut it down across the top of this line here and just try to figure out how to get this thing to set in there correctly with what I've got going on beneath it. There's a lot of guys out there in the hobby who have done this, and like I said, this is an inexpensive solution compared to buying the really expensive sheet metal section from the guys at Dynacorn. Not saying it's not worth it, but for a case where you're just doing the battery tray apron, it's not worth it. So what we will eventually be doing is we're going to be working with this and setting this up to fit down inside that hole, but we want to get everything cut out first, and that's going to be done by Logan, you know, hopefully staying home for at least a couple hours one day and then finishing up the spot weld cutting that I started for him because I couldn't stand it. I had to get out here and work on it some. But that's really it. Just wanted to go over parts this week so you guys could see exactly what we're doing. Kind of do a little review on the radiator core support, which I am very impressed with. Still really wanting the guys at Dynacorn to come out with just the battery tray apron for the Falcons. Guys, you'll sell tons of them if you'll just release that as a single part. Probably cover your stamping cost on everything else. Just saying. So that's our show for this week. Do me a favor, go out and check out our Patreon account at the $10 a month level. You get monthly meetings with me on Zoom. Plus, we now have Andrew producing videos specifically for Patreon. It's just an additional thing as a thank you I'm doing for these guys for putting the extra money where their mouth is, so to speak, and supporting the show. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with our how-to stuff and be notified continually about what's going on. You need to subscribe because you're probably not going to find us just lurking around on YouTube because they've changed the algorithm. So click that bell for notification so you'll get all the tech that we do on a weekly basis, usually 2 to 3 videos a week. Finally and all, folks, you guys have a great week, and I'd like for you to be nice to each other, be kind to each other, love on each other. We'll see you on down the road. So, you're now going to get to watch Logan do a few spot welds and get tired and go in the house. He's like 205 now. He's getting big, so I don't want to pick on him too much where he's like, you know, trying to kick my ass or anything, but dude's getting swole. And he's going to do a lot of spot weld cutting. Because like I told my dad always used to tell me, you know, you got to sleep sometimes. So just remember that. And I have a key to the teen suite that he lives in. He's mean to me. I'm going to go do something else while he cuts spot welds.